Everybody knows my co-host, everybody's favorite Barber Rancher guy, Luke Simons. How are you, Luke?
I'm wonderful, stoked about tonight. Having this special guest, I've wanted her on for a long time.
Yes.
How are you doing, child?
I'm doing good. So I've been excited about this too. Before we bring Lori on, though, I got a couple announcements. The first announcement is obviously our Dr. Frank events coming up here in February. So I'd like to thank the Sons of Liberty for sponsoring these events that are going to be held on the kind of a few different places around the state. Williston on Saturday, February 11th, and then we're going to be in Dickinson at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, also that Saturday, and then Sunday, the 12th, will be at the Tumbleweed at 1 o'clock. And Monday, we got a full day Monday too with Dr. Frank. We're going to have him at the Capitol for a press conference at noon. And then we're going to be off to Minot for a 6 p.m. seminar up there in Minot as well. And of course, as you can see, I want to thank the Sons of Liberty again for sponsoring this great event. I think this is going to be a good deal. If you want to know how you can help take your state back, I highly recommend you attend one of these seminars. So it is going to be one for the ages. And then the other thing that I would like to bring up is the District 1 reorg. District 1 in Williston, it's been scheduled for Saturday, January 21st at 12:30 at the Old Armory in Williston. We need patriots there to flip this chair seat. If you would like more info on that reorg, you can get a hold of Cole Cradaville. His number is there flashing across the screen. I'll be playing that throughout the night. That's again District 1 in Williston. Your reorg is January 21st at 12:30 at the Old Armory in Williston. So
also,
now that we got that,
also
sure, go ahead.
District 3039, we are having our reorg meeting coming up very shortly as well. If you need to get a hold of District 39, which is my district, get a hold of me. What's going on right now, but I do know that we need to be there, and there is going to be good things. I'm excited to get into this. Lori is one smart gal, and man, her television show is just knocking it dead. She's doing a great job, and find out some things tonight. One of them is what is a national chair? Most people don't know, and it's exciting.
Right.
And there's hardly nothing about Lori GOP. Nothing. Hardly nothing. So this is going to be exciting. I'm hoping she's willing to talk about them. But I've never known Lori a tough conversation. So without further ado, I'm ready. Are you ready?
I am, but we're having some audio problems with you now.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be.
Yeah, you've got full bars, but all right. I can hear
Testing.
you.
1, 2, 3. Testing.
Yep. Okay, here we go.
I'm telling you, this lady right here will inspire you. Step up and take some hard. Hopefully she's good. Let's get started.
All right.
I heard part of that.
Hi, Lori.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
I'm pleased to be here. I'm thrilled that you guys asked me.
Yes, we're excited about this.
The honor is ours. So, Lori Hinz, tell us about yourself, Lori.
Okay. I am 58 years old. I love leading with that. I think that's great because I'm really old. I have 3 sons, and I have an amazing husband. My
You
husband
do.
is Jeff Hinz from Kirkwood Ace Hardware fame from Bismarck stores. We have 2 hardware stores that we own here in Bismarck. So first and foremost, I'm a wife, I'm a mother. I am a person who believes in God. I am a Bible-loving Christian. I have to put most everything that I do through the lens of Christianity because that's how I make my decisions. I have a creed, and that's basically this way: God, family, country, and then party down there. so,
There you go.
so when I talk about being a national committee woman, it's not the first thing on my list. It's definitely a little lower on the totem pole, but it is. It's an honor, first of all, to represent the people of North Dakota. I love, love, love my state, and I am very passionate about telling people about North Dakota. So the position of National Committee Woman makes it a perfect fit for me because I love where I live and I love telling people about it. And I really enjoy traveling around the state and meeting people. I have really I've had a great last 3 years, actually. So I'm going to give you a little background just for you to know about my history with politics.
Sure.
A little background about me personally, and then I'll give you a little background about my radio and television career, which is weird, but it's fun. First of all, personally, I am a pastor's daughter. My dad is a Missouri Synod Lutheran pastor who is retired, in air quotes. I have to say that because the man preaches all the time, so he's not really retired. And I come from a family of 3 brothers and no sisters. I'm the oldest of 4. My husband and I have 3 boys, so I'm surrounded by a lot of testosterone. Let's just put it that way. I'm definitely a kind of a, people look at me probably on TV and think I'm a girly girl. Not so much. Pretty much was a basketball player in high school and kind of a boy-centric girl. Anyway, so God knew what he was doing when he gave me those sons. Then politically, I decided, my husband and I together decided that I was going to be an at-home mother when we started having children. And so our first child was born in 1996, and that was the year that I first started getting really active with politics. Before then, I had, paid attention to it, but I hadn't really gotten active. And I had a 6-month-old baby in a carrier, and I walked into NDGOP headquarters here in Bismarck, and I decided I wanted to volunteer. So I started doing things that were kind of in my wheelhouse, which is making get out the vote phone calls. They call it GOTV, get out the vote. And so that was perfect for me because I started in radio when I was 16 years old. So I started being a radio announcer when I was still in high school. And so I was really, really used to doing anything on a script, a lot of, commercials and things that I would read and news stories and things like that. So I would do get out the vote phone calls. And then after that, I graduated to envelope stuffing. And then after that, I graduated to door knocking and doing what we call lit drops or literature drops. And so I got really active in the party, and I hauled my little babies around with me everywhere. And then did a lot of door knocking and working on people's campaigns. I used to live in District 35 in central Bismarck, and now I'm in District 47. So I just started being real active in the party, did things like walked in parades and helped them put their commercials together. Sometimes I would do voice work for radio or television commercials for candidates that I liked and things like that. So got very active. My husband and I started going to state conventions, and we've been doing that for decades now. And then we hauled our kids with us too. And the boys are all grown now. We have a 22-year-old, a 24-year-old, and a 26-year-old son. Our eldest son actually runs our North Hardware store, the one with the fancy schmancy kitchen store in it on the north side. So that's a little history about me. Since I was a radio announcer, I am very used to doing appearances. I'm very used to doing emceeing things. I've introduced many, many, many artists, bands, rock, country over the years. Had a lot of experience doing really fun stuff with radio. And then about, 2.25 years ago, probably, I got a phone call one day. I was working at the radio station. I was at Mojo 107.5 in Bismarck, and I got a phone call from this guy named Kevin Leck, who works at Beck Communications. And we had our work telephones from Beck, and we had our hardware store telephones from Beck Communications. So I knew this guy as the salesman who'd, put our phones in. And he says, the CEO of Beck is summoning you. And I'm like, I don't even, like, really? I'm like, I don't even know who this guy is. So he told me his name, and I'm like, well, I've lived here. I said, how long has he been around? He says, well, 15 years. I'm like, well, I've never heard of this dude at all. So that's when I got to meet for the first time a guy named Derek Volowa, who is the CEO of Beck Communications. And truthfully, the truth is I ran home after work really fast and changed my clothes so I looked decent to meet a CEO, because I was like, I don't know what this guy is all about, right? So walked in there, and he says, we've got this concept for this show. We're thinking of making it a kind of a takeoff of The View, and we're going to make it with local ladies, and you guys can all talk about things from a flyover wife, conservative attitude. And I said, that sounds great, being part of a group. That would be so cool, right? I would love that. And I came in another day, and there were a bunch of these ladies, and it was all people that I knew, like Mary Grainer and Patty Armstrong and Carmen Sorrell. I knew all those girls, right? So I was like, oh, this is awesome. Then he calls me, and a couple days later, he goes, yeah, no. He goes, I want you to do your own show. And I was like, no, no, thank you. I was so not interested in doing my own show. He goes, well, would you consider doing it if somebody else was doing it with you? I'm like, well, it would depend on the person, I guess. So, and that is when he suggested Dr. Rick Becker. And I was like, yeah, I'd like that. I'd do that. Because I've always been kind of a fan of his. I've watched his videos for a long time and really enjoyed them. And so I thought that would be pretty cool. So we did 2 practices to do No Apologies with Becker. And then we were thrown on the air. And that was terrifying, to say the least. I had done some television in the past. Mostly I was a radio announcer, but I had done a 4-year stint at KXMB, the CBS affiliate in town, doing just the noon show. And it was like a 5-minute segment every noon hour. And I did that when I had little tiny kids, like ages 2, 4, and 6-year-old kids. And it was not like that at all. It was an hour show, right? So that's a lot more content. So we started the show, thoroughly enjoyed it, really enjoyed it. And what I learned after a while of doing that is that it's really hard to do radio and television at the same time. So at some point, the folks at Beck Communications and specifically my CEO said, whenever you're ready to make the leap from radio to television full time, let me know. I got your back. And so that's exactly what happened. I made the leap, and it's almost been a year. So the 1st of March in 2022, I started doing the show kind of by myself. This was about the time when Rick ran for Senate and could no longer do the program because of equal time issues. And so it kind of fell into my lap by myself. Yeah. But cool. I sure like having him on. And just FYI, a little promo. If you do watch the show, one of the most recent shows you will see coming up on the weekend is going to be with Rick Becker again. And he's back on the show because I just thoroughly love having him as a guest. It's so much fun. We have a great rapport. So
he's been on here 3 or 4 times, and he's
so information.
He's such a good
So now so what made you decide to run for national? And by the way, I'm not even sure exactly what the national chairwoman GOP. So the Republican Party has this position, and so naturally you're just so involved in Bismarck anyways and the political arena, Lori, that I suppose you just naturally ran for it then. And what made you run for it exactly?
Well, it's interesting. This is the first time I ever ran for anything, and it's committee woman. It's a weird name. Not everybody knows about what a committee woman is. It's a weird name, but it's a situation where each state and 6 U.S. territories, and I'm going to impress you by knowing the 6 territories here: American Samoa, Washington D.C., Puerto Rico, Guam, Northern Mariana Islands, and U.S. Virgin Islands. Those are the 6 U.S. territories. It took me about 2 years to figure that out, just to remember them. And then, of course, there's the 50 states. So each one of those 50 states and those 6 U.S. territories, which is 56, gets 3 people on the national committee. The RNC is the Republican National Committee. So it is a statewide office, but it's really not. It's only an office by the state convention goers. So the interesting thing is that we have 3 members who are on the RNC, and because of that, they're elected a little differently. For instance, we have a state party chairman, a national committee man, and a national committee woman. And those are the 3 people. So I'm not the chairwoman. The chairwoman is the RNC chairwoman. I'm the committee woman.
I wrote it down wrong.
And you are not the first person to do that. Everybody does that. That's really common. But the state party chairman is elected every 2 years in a summertime election. So it's usually mid-June. So that coming up here in 2023, our chairman will be up for re-election. And the national committee man and the national committee woman are elected for 4-year terms. So we were elected, both Shane Gettle, the national committee man, and I were elected by the non-convention in 2020. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a little butthurt about that. It was really frustrating in the year of COVID to try to get elected. You asked me originally why I decided to run. I have always wanted to do something regarding public service. I have really always had a heart for service and being a servant to the people, and I wanted to serve. I just didn't know what would fit me well. And so what I did is I talked to some people, and actually somebody suggested it to me before I thought of it. And I thought, an RNC National Committee woman is the perfect job for me, because I view my wheelhouse as loving where I live and telling people about it and being kind of like the Chamber of Commerce and going around and telling people about North Dakota, because I think we have the smartest people, the most engaged and connected people, and the kindest people of anywhere in the nation. So I'm like pretty excited about our people here. So that was perfect. And the other thing is I come from a background of being able to communicate. I find it really important to be able to articulate things and speak to people. I'm used to public speaking, so I had kind of all of the things that I needed in order to do this. The other thing is I've always been very interested in politics. I'm one of those really nerdy political people, one of those people who knows who congressmen are by their name, by seeing them on TV, and I can remember their name. It's so weird. It's just weird. But I'm one of those people. I'm interested in policy. Let's put it that way. I'm a policy person. I'm not a socialite debutante who goes to the RNC and says, let's have cocktails. That is so not me. Don't even hardly barely drink. So it's more interest in making a difference for our country, and particularly for our state, where I am driven and where my focus is, I guess the best way I could put it.
Sure. And so,
Luke,
yes,
Luke, we're still having problems with your audio. We're getting about every third word, and it says that you have low
bandwidth
service. Yeah. Do you want to try? Do you want to try and restart your phone and join us again?
Yep, I can definitely do that.
Okay,
folks.
do that, please.
Please continue the show. without me.
We will.
I will be right back.
Okay.
Sounds good.
If anybody understands technical difficulties, it's this girl. So
It's that girl.
I'm,
We're. I don't know what's going on here tonight, but at any rate, so one of the things while Luke's gone, I'd like you to comment about the story that you told me last night about Mike Lindell and watching football and that. If you'd tell that story, I'd appreciate it.
Well, one really fun thing about a contested race for the RNC chairmanship, and this is the first time that that's happened in, I think, 11 years for the Republican National Committee or the RNC. So those 168 people that I was talking about, the 56 times 3, those 168 people are the people who will get to vote for a new chair. And the chair of the RNC gets voted on every 2 years too. So that's the backstory. So one of the people who decided that they were going to run for chairman is Mike Lindell. And I got to meet him at the national convention, which was in Charlotte, North Carolina. Got to meet him in person. I had met him once. He was here in Bismarck for an event. He was doing a fundraiser for Kevin Kramer. So I'd met him before, but he's not going to remember me. There's like a million people he's met, right? So got to talk to him a little bit in North Carolina, and I rode up in an elevator with him. I'm like, this is super cool. And then I got this text. I was watching a Minnesota Vikings game, and just to be full disclosure, always was a big football fan. However, they started kneeling a few years ago, and I was out. I was out. Yeah. This year, I'm like, okay, they're not doing as much of that. We'll see if I can, migrate back. So I was just watching this football game, and I get this text, and it's Mike Lindell. He says, hey, can we talk? And I said, and I texted back, and I'm like, yeah, but the Vikings are on right now. Can we talk after? And he's like, oh, good. He goes, because I'm watching the Vikings too. So
that's awesome.
We waited until the football game was done, and I had a really nice conversation with him. He just wanted to talk because Mike Lindell is running for RNC chairman. And so we had a very nice conversation. And it was interesting because he really did not know a lot about the RNC, which is not unusual. And I know a lot of people. I know when I wanted to run for RNC chair, or for now you got me doing it, for national committee woman. When I decided I was going to run, I thought I would look online. I'm going to use my DuckDuckGo, and I'm going to go figure out what a national committee woman does. There is nothing. I mean, zilch online about it. I thought, this is ridiculous. There's no handbook. There's no job description. There's not diddly on there. It's really an unusual situation. The reason I found out since that time that I think that it's like that is because every single state and U.S. territory is so different. Everything is so different. You can't really put one national committee man or national committee woman into a box and say, oh, you should do this, because every state has different needs. Every person has different skills. So that's why there really isn't much of a handbook. They give you information when you become a member of the RNC, but then it's too late. Then you're already into it. So I can give you some fun facts though about the national committee.
Sure.
Those 168 people are kind of like a normal state. They're a group of people who are different levels of conservatism, different proclivities. I like to say there's a group of people who are in the RNC because they maybe were appointed, or they were the heir apparent, and so they were, owed the job in some manner, owed the honor of carrying it. I call them like the country club socialite class that aren't really as interested in policy. They, know a little bit, but they're not really interested in policy. Then there's the middle ground group of people. Those people can go either way. I like to call them the finger in the wind, squishy middle people. They will go where the prevailing winds go. They will decide, okay, you know what? This could be politically expedient for me. I think I'm going to vote this way because it will help me get a committee assignment. I'm not in that group. Totally not in that group. And then there's the true believers, what I would call the true believers, and there's the real conservatives on the RNC. And those are the folks that I like to hang with because they like policy. They want to affect change. They want to be, beholden to our amazing platform. They're the ones who believe in the Constitution, and there are a lot of good, really good Christian people in there. People who want to fight for liberty. Those are the folks that I like to hang with.
So there's 3 people running for the chairman, correct?
Actually, there's 4. And
4?
the weird thing is you never hear about the 4th guy, but there's 2 men and 2 women. So it started off that our current chairwoman, who is Ronna McDaniel, has been in office for 3 2-year terms. So she's been in office for 6 years already. And so she would be running for a 4th 2-year term, which is really unprecedented. That's very, very unusual. It's been a very long time. She would be one of the longest running one. But the 4th one is a guy who just got into the race after that. So first, Ronna McDaniel said at one of our meetings, she goes, I'm not going to run for a 4th term. I'm going to be done with this after my 3rd term. And we're like, okay, cool. That's good. You know what? You've served well. We're going to have another chairwoman. That's what we figured. But then after the election, it was about 10 days after the election, an email came out, a letter, and on it had the signatures of 107 out of the 168 people who were endorsing Ronna McDaniel. And I thought, where did this come from? She said she wasn't going to run. It really kind of caught me by surprise. I thought that was weird. But all these people signed on to support her before anybody else was in the race. So this is me, and I was sitting back there, and I'm keeping my powder dry. I'm like, I'm not going to, endorse anybody until I know who the field is. I don't even know who the competitors are in this field. Why would I endorse somebody before I know who's in the race, right? So I hung back a little bit. I got a call from a guy named Lee Zeldin, which was thrilling. That was awesome. Lee Zeldin is the guy who ran against Kathy Hochul for governor of New York. And rumor was that he was going to get in. And so I talked to him, and he knocked my socks off. I thought, I hope this guy runs for chair, because he was terrific. He eventually decided against running. So Ronna had announced, Lee Zeldin decided not to go in, but Harmeet Dillon announced. But before that, Mike Lindell. So Mike Lindell, after Ronna McDaniel, Mike Lindell, the MyPillow guy and entrepreneur. And I will say this about Mike Lindell. I love Mike Lindell. I just think he's great. I think the cool thing about him is you are not going to find another person you're not going to find another person in the United States, let's put it that way, who loves America more than Mike Lindell, except maybe Donald Trump. And that's it. Those 2 guys will do whatever they can for the country. They will sacrifice. They will walk the walk after they talk the talk. And they'll put their time and their treasure and their talents all to good. They're both like that. So I love Mike Lindell for that. And then Harmeet Dillon got in. Let's see if we can we'll check on Luke's his connection here in a second. Anyway, so Harmeet Dillon decided that she was going to run, and she is an RNC national committee woman. She is exactly the same position that I have, only she's in California. So that's kind of amazing. She is a national committee woman there. She's been around since 2017 in that capacity. She is a brilliant pundit. She's on television on Fox News all the time. And truthfully, I'm a fangirl. I have watched her on TV for years and thought, man, she's so well spoken and she's so intelligent, and she just is very poised and solid. And she decided she was going to run. And then it was only like 2 weeks ago, we got an email as the 168. We got an email from an individual named Michael McKenna, and never heard of him before. I am going to have to do some more looking up about him, because I really don't know much about him. But Michael McKenna, some political experience somewhere. I just don't know him, but he is also run. So there are actually 4 candidates for chair.
People know.
Yeah.
And who you came out and endorsed someone, correct?
I did. I waited until I could talk to everybody, and I got to talk to Ronna McDaniel. I got to talk to Mike Lindell first, and then I talked to Harmeet Dillon, and there was really no contest after I spoke to her. She is innovative. She is looking for revamping the RNC in many ways. She's looking to transform things. She really wants to innovate with technology and really be more aggressive. She wants to change things from the centralized beltway bubble, if you will, and decentralize the RNC. So it is no longer just based in Washington, D.C. She wants to kind of start over with the consultants instead of giving all of them these perks and things. She wants to be a lot more transparent with the spending of the RNC. I'm going to just put a little plug in here for people to do their homework on her and learn about her. She has a website that is excellent. If you go to Dillon, DHILLON, for FORRNC.com. Dillon for RNC.com. And the Dillon is spelled with an H, DHILLON. She is of Indian descent. And she grew up in North Carolina. She was brought over from India with her parents when she was, I think, 7 years old. She is brilliant. She is funny. She's delightful. She went to college at age 16.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you say that website one more time, please?
You bet. Absolutely. It's Dillon, DHILLON, for FOR, Dillon for RNC, as in Republican National Committee, RNC.com. Okay. And if you go to her page that says why I am running, you will see why I endorsed her, along with two of my really good friends on the RNC, National Committee woman Laura Nakanelua from Hawaii, and my friend Fanshawn Blythe, who is the National Committee woman from Nebraska. And the three of us put out a joint statement. You can find that on my Facebook page, which is Lori Hinz for ND. If you look at that on Facebook, you can find the statement there on that site. So, and you can follow me on Twitter too. I'm starting to do a lot more with Twitter lately because Twitter is now free. Yay. It's a far better thing than it was before.
I'm sorry, I'm typing here. I'm trying to put this on. Go ahead, Luke.
Can you? I've been having some technical difficulties on my end, and I could hear you, so I rebooted the system, and I don't know what's going on. So I know a lot of things that you're doing as the committee, the National Committee.
I know it's so weird. Woman. I know it's so weird, right?
Yeah. Yeah, to me it's just funny. I don't know why you'd have to even say woman, but
I know, right?
Anyways, but I have a hard time finding anything that it's not on the NDGOP page at all. So I don't get any updates on what you're doing. Why is that exactly? Is it?
That's a really great question, Luke. You can find on my Facebook page, you can see what I've been up to and where I go and what I do. You can see when I go to districts because you'll see me in person there, but you will not find me on anything that comes from the NDGOP. For some reason, I am kind of shadow banned there, and it's mystifying to me. I don't really understand it, but it's gotten noticeable to me now because after about 2.5 years of being the National Committee woman, when they put out a newsletter, for instance, and they put out a notice that Ronna McDaniel was in Bismarck. Well, I was at the event, but the pictures that you will see will not include any mention of me, nor will you see any pictures of me in the newsletter. And I don't know if that's just a gross oversight, but after 2 years, I'm starting to wonder because I can put the best construction and say, okay, maybe they're just forgetting that I'm there and they're just not mentioning it, that sort of thing. But it's interesting.
So is it because you're a lady, or is it because you have just different stance, or what? I mean, like, what's going on exactly? Why? Why is that?
I really can't say. All I can say is that when you see a picture of Ronna McDaniel and other people, and then the next person in the picture is me, and it's clopped off. I'm just not in the pictures. So, and it's okay with me. It truly is, because I put my own pictures up on my Facebook page, so you can follow me on Facebook, and you'll see that. I suspect that it might be because I do television and they don't want to just give me any more promotion than I already have. I don't know. I don't know what the end game is. It just seems really odd and petty, and I hope it's not purposeful. I just hope it's not purposeful.
I mean, so, I mean, I'm just trying to, Lori, you're one of the easiest people ever to get along with. I mean, like somebody, I know of cases where you've had some serious conversations with people. Like, it's obvious you're still friends with them.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I just don't exactly going on there. I mean, are they worried that you're going to take their position, or I just don't, or is it, could it be because of your relationship with Rick Becker? I mean, do you think that could it be something too? I mean, our said some pretty crazy, ridiculous things about Mr. Rick Becker, Chairman. Oh, help me out,
Perry Schaefer.
Perry Schaefer had some almost slanderous, really.
I really
about
honestly
Rick
hadn't
Becker.
thought
I mean,
of that. I wonder if that's entirely possible. I mean, we're very good friends, so there's no question. But I will say this too: despite the fact that Rick and I remain very close friends, doesn't mean that I have shirked my duties as a national committee woman. So you know, when John Hoeven won the endorsement for Senate for North Dakota, I put my like RNC National Committee woman hat on, and I went to his fundraisers, and I supported him in any ways that I could, because that is my job, is supporting the endorsed candidate. So I went to his fundraisers and things like that, and did my best to support him both monetarily and also with my presence. So if that's the case, I guess it's a kind of sour grapes in some way. If you're that freaked out by the fact that I'm actually friends with the guy, that seems weird to me. That does not seem like it would be. So I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's getting noticeable now, to the point where, for instance, there was a DC fundraiser, a DC fly-in fundraiser for some of our major donors in North Dakota, and I went and I attended that. But you will not see any mention of me or any pictures of me having attended that in the North Dakota GOP newsletter that comes out. And I'm kind of mystified by that after a while, because it's gotten noticeable, where I'm like, okay, that's weird that they have the other people who are there, but they don't have me on there too. So, but whatever it is, I hope they get over that. Maybe it's just an oversight, and I'm trying to put the best construction on everything. That's what I'm biblically bound to do, is to try to say, okay, you know what, we'll think that it's the best. And if it's something as silly or petty as I'm friends with somebody, that just seems ridiculous to me. I don't know. It's weird.
Well, let's talk about the North Dakota GOP.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you've been a part of that for how long have you been a part of that? Quite a long time.
Yeah. I've been active in the party since 1996, when I had a little kid. So yeah,
from
a lot
the
of years. Yeah,
from the time you started then until now, would you say that the party has shifted any, or what would you say is some of the benefits of being a part of the North Dakota GOP right now?
It's interesting, because that's a great question, Shiloh. That's a really good question. I think over time, my eyes have been more open to what's going on. I don't know that things have necessarily greatly changed in the GOP during that time, but when I started doing parades and knocking doors and things like that, I was just very active in my district, and I enjoyed it immeasurably, and I got along with a lot of different groups of people. As I got a little older and I had kids that were older, I started really appreciating our YRs. YRs are young Republicans. Love, love, love our YRs. I will say that I don't remember the young Republicans being as active when I first started in the party as they did later on. But our young Republicans are some of the most phenomenal human beings in the state. And I
Yes.
am so proud of everything
It's-
they're doing.
Mhm. Yeah.
I can't tell you how much I love all of them. Like I said, I'm 58 years old, so I could be all of their mothers. But I love them to pieces. They gave me a name tag. I went one time to their convention, and they gave me one of those really cool wooden etched name tags. I carry it around in my purse with me so I can wear it whenever I want. And I know that
That's
seems
all right.
really weird, but I really love the YRs. I would say that the change is the attitude of those people who have been entrenched in the party for decades, and they have more recently gotten more of an exclusive rather than an inclusive attitude, and that really concerns me because I don't remember that when I first got involved because I was younger. I was included. I never felt like I was really excluded until I moved into to this district. When I moved about 12 years ago into District 47, I was, how old was I? Well, 12 years ago, I would have been, 46 years old. And I moved into District 47, and they said I couldn't be a delegate right off the bat because all of the slots were filled. And by the way, I was too young. At 46. And I was like, what? But we had a lot of just higher age people in the district, and they had all spoken for all of the spots. And I live in a district here in Northwest Bismarck that has a lot of office holders, like statewide office holders. And so there just wasn't room for me right off the bat. So it was a struggle in my own district to get involved after I was in 35 and I moved to 47. And it's like, hey, wait a minute. I've been doing this for decades. How is it that, I can't be included? So I just think that changed a little bit recently. It bothers me because I think that is not what the Republican Party is all about. We are all about gathering more and new people into the party. I encourage people to get involved with their reorganizations. You want to be really fancy? Call it a reorg. Woo! Just call it a reorg. You sound like you're one of the in people. You know what a reorganization meeting is? It's a reorg. But I love it when people get involved, and especially younger people. There are those in the party who they're just not as tolerant of the younger set, and they think that they're far too conservative. I'm like, I don't know what that is. But I embrace them and I love them, and I like having new people coming to reorgs. I think that everybody should learn about the political process. Everybody should get involved. It's just so educational, and like I said, I'm a political nerd, so I dig it. So I like learning those things.
So
You would
that's
say that
basically where. Go ahead, Luke.
I was just going to say that because all of our lives, Lori, you've been involved longer than I have been, and I got involved in 2000. And it's just hard to believe. You said 10 years ago or whatever it was. Thinking, I'm pretty sure she is 46 because you don't look like you're older than her.
So
the
I was going to
big
comment.
Intent,
Go ahead.
if intent theory that we grew up hearing of, it's a big tent. We're supposed maybe are more liberal than us, maybe more. But why is it that I've noticed doesn't want the conservatives in it? And that's what found an elephant in a room, and that's what's really going on here. It's no secret you're good friends with Kevin Kramer, Senator Kevin Kramer, friends. How long have you been friends?
Okay, this
10,
is
15?
funny. This is weird. I met Kevin Kramer when I was 18 years old, and he was 21 years old. So we've known each other for 40 years. We met at Concordia in Moorhead, which, by the way, was interesting. Was right about the time that I met my husband too, and Kevin and I were friends. Jeff and I were friends, and Kevin and I have been friends for a very long time. We've had our ups and downs where I'll criticize something that he's done in the Senate and he gets really mad, and I've been really rude to him and and very blunt. But
I've never been rude to him.
Well,
Luke gets it.
I will tell you this. Okay, here's the thing about me. I have what I call the Jerry gene. My dad's name is Jerry, and Jerry has really highly honed discernment. I call it the Jerry gene because it's the discernment gene. And it's a blessing and it's a curse. It's a blessing because my BS meter is pegging red all the time when there's crap going on. And I'm like, I can't not know when it's BS, right? So the good news is I know that it's BS that I'm being fed. The bad news is I need to say something about it. And sometimes it's hard to stop myself from saying something about it. And so that's happened to me before when I've seen, something that's happened in the Senate, and I'll text him and then he'll be just like back, like, you don't know what you're talking about. Stop harassing me type of stuff, but we maintain a good relationship, a very open relationship. He's been terrific. I loved Kevin Kramer as a House member and a congressman. I thought that was the perfect place for him. I know it was his happy place. I also happen to know a little inside baseball in that Kellyanne Conway finally was the straw that broke the camel's back of getting him over to run for Senate. President Trump wanted him to run for Senate. He really wanted him to go from the House to the Senate. And so Kellyanne Conway was the one who said, you need to, I know you don't want to, but you need to do it for America. America needs you. And I'm sorry, but if President Trump's spokesperson tells you that, you have to do it. I mean, I know I would be very convinced by that. So I'm grateful that he ran for Senate because we need principled people in the Senate. But we've been friends, yes, for a very, very, very long time. When we were at the DC fundraiser, he actually told the room of people that we have known each other for 40 years, and I could see people looking at me doing math.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out, how old is she?
Yeah, because I look older. So my point was, I guess, is you recall very Kramer didn't even show up to the NDGOP endorsement. He didn't get the endorsement the first time because he went around that. The party even then didn't like him because at the time they didn't think he was electable. And which was hogwash. He had name recognition, grassroots. I mean, my word, he was the ex-NDGOP chairman.
Right. One of the youngest ones ever. Right. Yep.
Yeah. And did a great job. And that party, our party, ousted him. Like they was not going to win Brian Kolk, excuse me. In I didn't mean that, or Shane Gettle, because he was considered kind of the white elephant. Is that
black sheep? Mm-hmm.
Yep, the black sheep. Is that what you kind of gathered too?
Yeah. He and I had a discussion not long ago about that too. And I said, you know what? I think what we need to do is just get rid of the primary. And he said, I think we need to get rid of the convention. We're on opposite sides on that one. I was like, wait, what? So yeah, we're on opposite sides. Yeah, we're totally on opposite sides of that. And there is discussion again amongst Republicans to move the state convention until after the primary, or how's that go? Yeah, after the primary, just rendering it basically useless, which I am not in favor of. Here's the big thing. When I ran for office in 2020, and by the way, I've got an interesting story about that too. I don't know if I should tell it. Let's just put it that I'll tell this story. Okay, so I had to talk my husband into letting me run for office. And I mean it that way, because I'm not going to run for office if my husband is not backing me, right? I'm not going to do that. And so I asked Chris Kramer. Chris Kramer is a great friend of mine. Love this woman. She's so brilliant, and always just spot on with her views on stuff. Anyway, I asked Chris, I said, Chris, how do I talk my husband into letting me run for this public office? Because he is afraid that our businesses will suffer once people know that I am, a Republican. He was worried about that. He was like, people are not going to shop at our store and stuff. And do you know what she said? She said to me, she goes, Lori, ask him who the current national committee woman is. And so I did. We went to supper that night, and we had my oldest son there and another friend there. And I said, Jeff, who is the current national committee woman? Crickets. Nothing. He goes, I don't know. I said, well, don't you think maybe I could run for it if nobody's going to know who I am? I mean, you don't have to worry about nobody, problems with business, right? So he goes, yeah, you're right. You probably should run for that.
That's funny.
Now, that may have been a little bit of a bait and switch, because as it turned out, then I ended up with a TV show. So there's that.
No.
But when I decided to run, I called the current, at that time, national committee woman, who was a gal from Fargo named Sandy Beeler. And I called her on the phone. I said, Sandy, this is a courtesy call. I just thought it would be kind of me to let you know I didn't want you to be blindsided. I have decided I'm going to run for national committee woman. And she said to me, she goes, well, I haven't decided whether or not I'm going to run for a fourth term. But if I don't, I've chosen somebody to run in my stead. And I went, is this a coronation or an election? Is this an anointment, or is this actually a race where you have to compete with people? Because it sounded an awful lot like, I just couldn't figure out why she would tell me that. Why would you say, I haven't decided whether I'm going to run, but if I don't, I've already picked somebody for the position. So I took that as an attempted deterrent to me running. I think she was trying to say, you know what, you're not going to get in anyway, so don't bother, because the person I endorse is going to get in if I don't run myself. So that was a real eye-opener to me. That was a big eye-opener to me of what I was up against. And so I knew that the only way I was going to possibly attain that position is if I worked my patootie off, which is what I ended up having to do. And I cannot tell you what a wonderful experience that was. It was the year COVID started. So in the beginning of the year, in January and February, I went all over the state to as many national or rather district meetings and reorgs that I could go to. I went to as many district meetings as I could to. I got to, of the 47 districts, I got to 43 of the districts, and I sent proxies. There were a couple of them where one was in Williston, the other one was in Wapaton, and you couldn't do them at the same time, and they were concurrent. So I would send a proxy and somebody to go there. I did about a 2.5 minute speech, because nobody wants to hear somebody droning on and blah, 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 blah. So I kept my speech very concise. I talked about who I was, what I believed, and then I left. I only did 2.5 minutes so people wouldn't hate me. And as it turned out, then all of a sudden, all of the in-person stuff stopped. And so I had to start campaigning only over the phone. And what I did is I decided I was going to take those just under 1,000 delegates at that time. And think about it. You're not even going to get to go to a convention, but if you want to vote for somebody, you still have to pay to go to a convention that you don't get to go to. So there were still 1,000 like ridiculous souls who said, okay, you know what, I'm still going to donate to the party even though I don't get to go, so I can vote for you. And they still did it. And we had a paper ballot. And what I did is I called all 1,000 delegates to that convention night after night. About 3 weeks it took me to do that. After I got done with radio, I'd come home, I'd start on the phone. And it was during that time that my husband started cooking. And he's still cooking. So
Another bait and switch
Boy,
deal,
this,
huh?
yeah, I was going to say this bait and switch thing, Lori. I mean, he had some godly insight here, didn't he?
what's funny is during our marriage, and I'm married to a fantastic,
Yes, you
godly
are.
husband. He's
Yes,
just,
you are.
I mean, I'm married up, and this
Top
gentleman is,
notch.
yeah, and he's so terrific. And he and I have switched our roles in our marriage multiple times, where I've been the cook, and then he's been the cook, and then I've been the cook, and now he's the cook again. I mean, during the baby and at-home mother years, I was exclusively the cook, and our early years of our marriage, I was exclusively. But we've switched depending on what's going on with us. So we have an amazing relationship, and I'm so grateful to have that husband. And I will tell you, for somebody who is not really behind the whole you be an RNC National Committee woman thing right off the bat, he's 180 now. He's like he's
Good for
got
him.
my back.
Good for you.
And that kind of backing makes all the difference in your confidence. It really does. I love that he is so proud, and he is so happy that I'm serving the people of North Dakota. He loves it.
Yeah. So, we've got just a little bit here left. I wanted to talk a little bit more about the North Dakota GOP and where that's heading. You know, I myself have gotten involved. Well, what's it been, Luke? 2.5 years, and that's where I met Luke. Actually, was a reorg, like we were talking, and it was in Williston. It wasn't even my reorg for my district. It was in Williston, and Luke knows this story, but I come home and I was already going to be late for it. My wife asked me if I was still going to go. And I said, well, no, I don't think so. And she's like, well, I think you've been talking about this for a while. I think you need to go and, and check it out. And man, I'm sure glad I went that night, because I met Luke and I met Jared Hendricks, Nico, who is a representative
Rios.
now.
Yep.
Yeah, Nico Rios. Who else was there?
If they thought I was a wild man in the legislature, they've
Surprise!
that's
I
for
love
sure.
I love me some Nico. I like Nico. I like Dawson Holly, Matt Heilman, Brandon Pritchard. All those guys are my people. They're terrific, and they're going to do great things. They're going to do great things.
God willing.
I've got high hopes for them, and lots of prayers going up for them too.
But one thing that I'll be honest with you guys, is it was our first convention, and I didn't know what we were getting into. And I was one of 8 people who helped get all 92 delegates from District 2 down there. And so, we got down there, and obviously it was the mess that it was. And I'm just wondering, what do you think? Where do you see the party going? I mean, do you see it splitting?
Well,
because we have enough grassroots people versus quote unquote the establishment, like we were talking earlier about people being in for years and years, and it's like they expect to be nominated. Case in point, our representatives for that convention wanted to be nominated. They thought they were going to automatically get nominated, to the point where they stood up with their wives and stormed out of the reorg meeting. And our chairman got a call from Perry Schaefer that next day, because they didn't automatically get their seats there at the convention. So I'm just wondering, because it kind of seems to me that. Go ahead, Luke.
If we can back that up, maybe. I don't want to put Lori on the spot on that. There's always been bad politics in the Republican Party. There always has been. There should be contained.
Yeah.
It really should be. But rather more so, maybe we should ask the question, I think we should do to make sure. I mean, let's screw the party for a moment about that.
Okay.
We got a country that is falling apart.
Amen.
We have a that is screaming help. We have enemies across that do not take us lightly.
Yep.
We have a communist agenda coming to this country and tearing this country apart. Western ideology that is given to us from the Torah, from the New Testament. These freedoms, this all of it is under threat right now. So screw the party. What do we do in North Dakota? If we can use the party, let's use the party. But Lori, what do we do here? The answer, besides Jesus, we know Jesus and strong families is the issue. But as far as a party goes, and we're talking about the party, how do we fix what?
Well, and that's where I was going to go with that is what as new people can we do in your view of steering the ship correct,
first
so
thing
I
you
guess
can do,
that's where
I
I was
think,
going.
guys, first thing to do is change your mindset of being apathetic and there's nothing I can do. That is not true. It has happened all across the country that people have won or lost an election by one vote. So first and foremost, don't ever think that your vote doesn't count. It's very important. No matter how frustrated you are with malfeasance and fraud and things like that, still have to go and show up. And that's what you need to know about politics is the first thing you need to do is you need to show up. The next thing you need to do is you need to start educating yourself about what you can do and look at yourself in an objective manner and see what your gifts are, because chances are really good you have skills in something that is needed politically. Maybe it's you are not afraid to go and speak in front of people, and you can go to the state capitol and testify on behalf of a bill that you are passionate about. Maybe it's you are really good at stuffing envelopes like I was, or maybe you could make phone calls and get out the vote phone calls. All those things are very valuable, and I'm so glad that I volunteered and did that right off the bat, because it gave me such a good basis of the grassroots. I consider myself not a national committee woman. I consider myself a spokesperson for the grassroots because that's where my heart is. That's where I started in politics. That's where I will always remain. I think there is a place for everybody. Like I say to my kids, everybody's got different skills. Everybody's got different gifts that God has given them to do things. You got to find your place and figure out how you can apply that to make the world a better place. And it starts by showing up at reorganization meetings. It starts by learning about what's going on in your district. The first thing you can do is you can go to the NDGOP website and learn and figure out where you are. You can go to, I always tell people too, there is a great source with our legislative website. It is so helpful if you can just navigate a couple of different things. Go to legis.nd.gov. I give that out all the time because people can learn so much just from looking around on the site. And it used to be that you couldn't even figure out what was going on in the legislature because it was all behind closed doors and smoke-filled rooms. Now everything is on video. It is all available for you to see if you want to find out what's going on. And I love the transparency. I think that holds everybody accountable. I think that's a very, very good thing. I like competition and I like transparency. I think the reorganization meeting should have competition. We get the best people when we have competitive races. And I think transparency, people should be honest about what their bylaws say and not try to be sneaky and change them last minute. I think that is underhanded and despicable. I would just like a little more transparency. I would like a little bit more honesty. And I think we just have to ask for it and at some point maybe even demand it. We just need to demand it of our leaders in the state, on the on the district level and on the state level.
You know what you said about that, just not to derail the conversation last night, they called it the LaFour method, and which is very, and what it is it's a scandalous rule, not just in District 37 where Mr. LaFour resides. It's being used where it's just tricky and convoluted, and you can't vote, have the right blood type or whatever it is. And, the Bible says, your enemy, you yourself will fall in it. And the more this stuff gets publicized, the more people are coming. And Lori, if you recall, they shut the mic off or 2014. You remember that?
Yeah.
And so when I hear new people get started and they're like, oh, you guys are, the end of the doom and gloom, it's getting bad. We already have term limits, but anyways, we may even disagree on that. I'm sitting there going, we're actually gaining ground. What you just said, we just got a house full of really good legislators elected. Good. Like really, really good.
Luke, look at the Senate. The Senate, when Becker and I were on TV, it used to be the place where all good bills go to die. And now we've got rock star people in the Senate with principles and backbones, and they're fantastic. I am so excited about the Judy Estensons and the people who are the Boehm, Keith Boehm, all of that. I mean, we've got some fantastic new people in there who I am very excited about. So,
we used to have a minute that we could count on, and that was Ole Larson. That was it. And now we got the Jeff Magrum over there, which is just a powder. And we have, my Uncle Todd Beard, he went over really good. Gentleman owns the most, Larson, Doug Larson.
Right.
I mean, so people in the Senate, that's amazing. You're absolutely correct. And then we still got Jeff Hoverson keg right there. That's a powder keg. We got a bunch of great legislators. We never used to. We had Mike Schatz, Larry Blue, Kim Koppelman. We had
Ben
Dan
and Matt Ruby.
We had, but before that's all we had is Mr. Dan Ruby. Didn't have hardly 5-6 votes of conservative votes. And look what happened. This is good. This is a good day. And besides that, we read the.
I missed that last part. Did you hear what he said? I missed it.
We read the end of the book. We win.
Yes,
we win.
Right.
we win.
Well, I
We're
tell
God's.
people too. You know that when you are taking incoming and you're taking fire and you're taking criticism from people, chances are really good it's because you're over the target. I'm totally good with that. I do not have a problem with all the criticism that comes my way, because I know in my heart of hearts, Jesus loves me. My soul is secure. You can't hurt me, because those words are going to be fine, but I know I'm going to heaven. So I have a really good attitude about that. It's exhausting sometimes, the pettiness and the garbage that goes on. But at the same time, you got to understand that that's on them. They're the ones who are acting that way. You just put a smile on your face and show them the love of Jesus. They, don't necessarily like that all the time when you're nice to them, but that's what we're called to do. And I know in my life, what I have learned as I've been National Committee Woman and on this television show, that I have a job to do. And it is by the grace of God that he has put me in this position to be his vessel and to do his will on a daily basis. So I know that that's what my job is. It's easy to see. It's as plain as day to me. And so I just continue to serve the people of North Dakota, but first serving God.
Amen. Yep. The joy of the Lord is our strength. And he is a strong those that love him. They don't understand. We have no ill will toward him. No ill will towards these people.
Yes.
Like I love them. I pray for them. The Bible says, spitefully use you. And so when I see these things, like Perry Schaefer just said some really nasty things about me, and I heard it. And I was like, I haven't had the opportunity to even talk to him. Like I have nothing against him. I pray for his family. I don't pray that a piano falls on him. I pray for good. The Lord gives him wisdom. Like, they don't get, like, John Hoven on some big issues.
Mhm.
I love his family. His wife, I don't wish ill on these people. And it confuses them. They don't understand. This is not, I love you. Like, I love you.
Mhm.
If you eat from your ways, I will vote for you. I will stamp for you.
I think the difference is, Luke, that when you know who you are because of Christ, and you know who who's in charge of what's going
Amen.
on, you're not afraid, and you don't have fear. So I really do not live in fear of dying. I don't live in fear of what's going to happen tomorrow, because God always takes care of it, and I know he's going to take me to heaven with him.
Right.
So it's not an issue of that. And when you put your selfish desires first, and you put your aspirations up there, and what I've seen now in the political world is people who are obsessed with climbing and being more popular and getting more votes, and attaining such a position. I am not that girl, and I will tell you, it is so freeing not to have those things blinding me as an idol that I am searching for all the time. So it's a much better place. I'm a much more confident person, because I do not aspire to higher office. I don't really want higher. I'm doing what I'm meant to do right now. God put me here for a reason. I'm doing it. I pretty much figured also that I would be a one-termer, because that whole discernment thing. And I figured, I'm gonna say something that people aren't gonna like, and I'm gonna be gone anyway. And that's fine. It really is, because uh, God's gonna handle whatever happens next after that anyway. So I am not looking to be the perennial candidate. That's just not why I got into the race. I wanted to serve my state and my country, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm really enjoying it, because I feel like I have already made a difference on the RNC. I've networked with a lot of amazing people, many of whom you're going to see on my TV show. You've seen, I can't even count how many RNC members I've had on there, but I bet you I have had upwards of 20, 22 just national committee people already on my television show, so that I can introduce other states and other information to people. I just had Paul Reynolds from Alabama, and he just gave the greatest object lesson. And then I just also talked to Frank Ethorn, who's from Wyoming, and what a great story Wyoming is with Harriet Hageman. So I love sharing that with people in North Dakota, because then they can be political nerds like me too, and be confident in what an amazing state we have, and what assets we have in this state with its people.
It's awesome. Well, I really do appreciate your time this evening. Go ahead, Luke.
Well, I was having technical difficulty to what the NRs are, the RNC is actually. Did you? Okay.
We did. We talked a little bit about it. There's 168 people. Their main primary job is to hold conventions and to work on the platform, and to pick a site for a convention. And so the national convention in 2024 is going to be held in July in Wisconsin. It'll be in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We are having our next meeting where we are basically having the elections for our chairman, co-chair, secretary, and treasurer. And that is going to be in California the last week of January. So I will be traveling to California for that meeting. The vote for chairman will be held on Friday, the 27th of January. So watch the news that night to see what happened. I can tell you that I have started to get a lot more emails just the last 3 or 4 days, and they're all in favor of Mike Lindell all of a sudden. Before that, the lion's share of them were for Harmeet Dillon, but he's got his army out now who are contacting all the RNC members. I will tell you the emails that have the most weight with me are those from my constituents. They're not from somebody from Nevada, but they are from somebody from North Dakota who tells me they're from Minot, North Dakota, or they're from Wapaton, North Dakota. Those are the ones that have a lot more impact on me than the ones from across the United States, because I serve the people of this state.
Yep.
Sure. Is that's a private ballot? Is that right?
It is a secret ballot. And the other thing that's interesting is, since we have 4 people starting right off the bat, we might have a bunch of ballots. I mean, it's going to take a while to get that. And then the co-chairman ways. Here's a little tidbit of information for you. This is a little inside baseball. The chairman of the party can be either male or female, but the co-chairman has to be the opposite sex of who is elected chairman.
Interesting.
The other interesting thing is, you'll notice that we have a national committee man and a national committee woman and a state party chairman from every state. So you could have a man and a woman, and then either a man or a woman as your state party chair. Arizona has a state party chairwoman whose name is Kelly Ward, and she's a female. So it's very even between the sexes. And God forbid we know what a woman is.
Oh boy. Yeah, no kidding, right?
No.
Well, are you a biologist then or not?
I'm not a biologist. I just know that. I mean, God made me a woman, and I'm pretty much sticking with that. Thank you very much.
It's kind of interesting, Lori. I just figured I must have some kind of biology degree, because every time I've always come home with a cow, and every time I've looked for a bull, I've looked. So I don't know. I must have a bachelor's or something. I'm not sure, but I don't know. And those are the kind of things that got me kicked out of the state legislature. By the way, committee. I'm just like, I'm not buying this. This is silly.
Here's the thing, Luke. The reason that you got kicked out of the was not because of what you said. It was because of what you believe in, who you are, and that is a Christian man who believes in truth and justice and the American way, and that is why they hate that. That's hate that. Those people who don't like that, that's on them, honey.
Yeah,
that's on them. So I grieved the day they did that to you, because I felt bad for them. They were the ones who were making really bad decisions, not following the rules. They were making sure that they were just going to eliminate something that they could not themselves be, which was a good human being.
I agree with that 100%.
I don't even know what to say. Thank you. Thank you for that.
So,
well, the truth hurts. they just, you know what? They didn't do well with that. You were one of my favorite legislators, and I'm still a little butthurt about that too. I'm not going to lie. There are things that I'm a little crabby about, and that's one of them. But I think personally that you have a lot to offer a lot of these younger legislators, and that is a lot of experience. You've got a lot of mentoring that you can do. And that was my issue with the whole. So I was not in favor necessarily right off the bat of term limits. I really wasn't. But I will tell you that I kind of switched. And here's when I switched. When it occurred to me that the reason that people didn't want term limits was because they didn't want to share power. So if you are okay to mentor somebody who's a new legislator and share your institutional knowledge, that's awesome. But if you are unwilling to share your institutional knowledge, you don't want that position to help North Dakota. You're in it for you and the power involved. So I am totally good with people who are legislators that are mentoring, but I'm not okay with people who want that power and will hang on to it at any possible way they can. That is not what a citizen legislature is, and that's not what a citizen legislator should do, in my personal opinion, my humble opinion.
I
couldn't have said it any
agree,
better.
and I totally sit by Rick Becker, who literally stood like a stone all alone before voting like that. And I say that there were a few, but even them weren't what he was voting like. One thing that blew me away as a legislator, people would come to me and say, you have to vote for this bill, the election bill. And I'm like, it's pork for Dickinson, for Minot, Bismarck, Fargo, Grand Forks. Vote for it in Dickinson. I told these people what I was, that I wouldn't vote for pork handouts. And I'll tell you, the peer pressure, Lori, was so heavy. And it was unbelievable. I had people cuss and swear at me the way. And I'm serious. It was like a big deal. And that's what it was. And they were like, you won't get reelected if you don't do this. The five top biggest businesses in Dickinson wanted carve out tax purposes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I voted no on it. And I remember won't get reelected by doing this. And I'm like, if it works for it should work for everybody. Like, it doesn't work that way. But it's just interesting. And then how people, they like that define them. Being a legislator define them. Being a senator define them. Being a Christian defines me.
That's right.
What we are.
Yeah.
And that final day, just as interesting, when that was happening, I realized my execution, I would be okay with this. This must be how it feels. It was pity that these people would treat anybody with no trial. The accusers, not having anything. And I remember feeling so sad, but for them. And if you are a one-horse committee woman, they didn't rejected what you stood for. And remember what Samuel was down in the molly grubs because, Lord, they're rejecting, they want a king. Remember this? He told Samuel, the prophet, he said,
my oldest son's name is Samuel.
They said,
for a reason.
They said, he's not rejecting you. And that's what my pastor told me. He said, Luke, they didn't reject you, or they rejected what you said. That is what's happening here. That's what's happening here. We need a spiritual revival, and without understanding God's law, with the nature of God, the ideals of Jesus, and that people can change, and we love these Judeo-Christian beliefs that we believe in. And it's overplayed. When they signed our Constitution, they said, what did you give us? Most renowned man in the world at the time. I mean, he invented electricity. He said a republic, if you can keep it.
If you can keep it.
And they said, and Thomas Jefferson was sitting right next to him, and they said, what do you mean by that? And Thomas Jefferson, renowned man in the world, said, a constitutional republic is made. It is wholly inadequate for any other. If we want freedom, you have to, period. You have to love your neighbor as yourself. So love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, and mind, which is the Shema. And the second, in other words, it's a two-part question. Love your neighbor as yourself. And that's the truth. Mm-hmm. And how we forgive others is how we'll be forgiven. But sister, it was for a long time. Thank you so much for what you do.
Yes.
Your show, you're like one of our heroes. And the encouragement. You
don't
used
make
to
me
do.
that. That's too hard.
No,
I have to.
I'm serious. You and there was because I didn't get it. I didn't get permission, but there was two ladies that would come to the legislature. And actually, you didn't come to the legislature, but you went to a lot of the events. Encouragement I got from you two made me feel like, you know what, I can do this. See, I'm not crazy. There are other crazy people there that we will probably share a FEMA camp, and because we're
Oh,
terrorists. So
and there it was. It just went off the rails right now.
Well,
So,
I think,
well,
I
thank
think
you.
everybody should take that to heart, though, Luke, the words that you said, because I think that all of the citizens of North Dakota, if you get a chance to talk to your legislators, thank them, shore them up, give them confidence to help them, write to them, email them when you have ideas, give them support. And for heaven's sakes, I am so proud that a couple of times now I've been invited to go along with the CWA gals. They're the Concerned Women for America, and we do a prayer issue where we will literally pray for a legislator. The last session, I was praying for Bob Paulson the whole time, and I love that guy. I mean, he knocked it out of the park so many times, and I know that he felt those prayers. I know that it was important. So my suggestion for people is to definitely pray for your legislature. Pray for specific legislators, and prayer, does not. It's not a useless thing to do. It's a very useful thing to do and very helpful, and God answers prayers.
Amen.
Yep,
So
I agree.
you know this lady that I'm not going to say her name. And she drew my name. She prayed for me. And another person was a man named Josh Boucher, who is the minority leader than most of us Christians agree with. And I was so honored, and like horrible times in the legislature praying for you. And I felt those prayers, and how she would even know to text me. It was circumstances, but it wasn't. And she had great Representative Boucher and Boucher, I believe it is. I was so honored that she would be praying for me, and it works. It really does.
It does.
Yeah. Well,
thank you
it's
so
been
much.
a great night. Yes, we really do appreciate your time. I've been looking forward to this ever since we made contact. And actually, just a little backstory on this. So this last year at the state fair, I walked in the parade, and you were part of that too. You walked with the group that I was with, me and my two kids. And so I've actually wanted to reach out to you back then about being on the show. So this is pretty cool for me as well, as to finally get you on the show and be able to spend some time with you and learn about you and all that you do.
Honored to be asked. I am I feel very blessed and honored to even be asked to be on here. It's been my pleasure. I think a lot of you guys, and I hope you know that, and I appreciate the fact that you are just getting information out to people. Again, you're using your talents. You're doing stuff that you can do, and I think everybody should take that as a model and try to do their part and figure out where their wheelhouse is, what their skills and what their gifts from God are, and then use those to His glory. You guys are doing that. I think that's terrific. So thank you so much for having me on.
Well, we appreciate the encouragement. Yep, thank you, and we'll have to do it again.
You keep up Godspeed, and where there's smoke, there's usually fire.
It's all true. Right. Bye, guys.
Have a good night.
Good night.
So,
wonderful lady.
Yes. Yeah, that was fun. I'm speechless. So it was great. So just another announcement before we go off the air. Next week, I'm in talks. Marty Beard reached out to me about Dr. Ted Fogarty. And I don't know if you are familiar with Dr. Ted Fogarty, I know he's been on KFYR and back with Scott Hannon when Scott Hannon was on KFYR too. He talks about the hydrobarics chambers and the natural healing that does for people. So we're going to have him on this coming week. And then after that, we are going to have Luke Simons' sister, Sarah Woods, on 26th. And we're going to be talking to her about her new book. And that's going to be pretty fun. I can't wait to ask her about what it was like to grow up with Luke. And
Don't have. So the thing about my sister is I kind of break things down. It's just a cowboy talking, cowboy rancher, barber guy, like you say.
Yeah.
Not that way at all. My sister is extremely bright and academically. And so this book is on a subject line that it might, I think most Christians are going to be okay with.
Yeah.
And it's about raising children and proper etiquette of children, be expected out of children, and the role of a parent. The Bible says that train a child in the way they should grow. It doesn't say spank up, it says train up a child in the way they should go.
Mm-hmm.
And when they grow old, they won't depart from it. That's what the book is about. And it's an amazing, amazing book. When you see a good child, usually wasn't just born that way. It was growing that way. And
I can't wait I can't wait to talk to her about it. So,
and that's next week.
Yep, that is next week. You bet. No, she's on the 26th.
Oh,
Dr. Ted Fogarty is going to be on the 19th. So, yep. So, all right, folks. Until next time, happy trails.